Get him, get him.
Oh my God!
Calm down. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here.
Oh, yeah! Yeah, dude!
Dude.
6 pounds, 11 ounces. Oh,
Oh my. Limp. That's what I've been waiting for all day.
that's over 6.
True. And that one's.
Oh, here he goes.
Go. Good.
That's a big fish.
Full hand on tail. Yeah, it looks sick. Good to go.
Look how broad that thing is.
I wonder if that was the one that followed me in.
Beautiful. Oh my God. Holy sh! God. What a beast.
Oh wow. That might be a
Dude.
4. That might be a 4.
Yeah, it's a 4. You guys show that off too. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Holy.
Another good one.
Holy sh! What the? Is that another 6?
Could be.
It's the second giant of the day, proving that point. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Yes!
Big baits, big fish. There we go. 5 pounds, 6 ounces. Beauty! Dude, I'm not even joking. It happened again.
You kidding me?
Nope.
Is it big?
Oh! That's strong.
Oh wow.
That's a fat fish, dude. Come on.
4.
Holy. Dude. Holy hell, that's long.
Yeah, it is.
5, 4, 6. What?
Yeah. Just rock.
Got him. Get in here, you. There's another 6. You. That's a big fish.
6'10".
Woohoo!
Big old fatty.
Remove ad, switch, bam! Different format tonight. How's everybody doing? Welcome back, Dennis, from your staycation to the North Country of New Hampshire.
Thank you very much. Good to be back. Glad to be back.
This is why Dennis isn't here, because he's ruining everything by being at home. I'm kidding.
That's
It's
true.
fine.
That's true. That's true. Baby precedence.
You're what?
Baby precedence.
Yeah. No, trust me, I've been there twice. I get it. I understand it. Dad to dad.
Yep.
Product placement. Perfect. So we have a lot to talk about tonight for fall power fishing, which I know is a topic that you are going to be very keen on. And it's funny. I went back, and when I'm kind of, I wouldn't say in a rut, but when I'm in a spot where I'm like, I don't even know what I really want to talk about this week, I'll get something in my head. I'll go back through and check, like, okay, did we cover it recently? Because my memory is starting to go on what we've already done. And we have actually covered power fishing in the spring and the summer. We haven't covered it in the fall yet. So This is good because we're covering it from a different angle that we haven't done yet. And I tried a little bit of a different thing this time with trying to promote the stream by making a reel instead of doing just a bunch of photos. So I could hit Instagram and YouTube a little bit better. So we'll see if that pans out. Otherwise, everybody else that's been sharing it, thank you very much. As always, I have to circle back and personally thank everybody where I can find everything. Although there's always a few that I see, like especially on Facebook, where it's like it's private. I can't see what some people share. But for those of you that do that you have your stuff set as such, thank you anyway. Before we get into it, we got to do the usual weekend fishing report. Did you get out? Because you posted a picture, and I wasn't sure if that was.
Nah, that was one from last weekend.
Okay,
I'll be
wasn't
out.
Sure.
I'm going out this week at some point, but not last weekend. I was up at the resort the entire weekend, so
Yep.
No chance.
Which is all good. I got to get you a GoPro. I don't have a mic for you anymore because Andrew broke it, which is always fun. I think it's the third one he broke. So you're going to have to order another mic, unfortunately. But then we can get you rolling on making videos, which would be friggin' awesome. So we can start getting that. I guess just a general channel update. I have 3 different videos that are kind of sitting, like waiting to be edited. The one I'm really trying to get done is the STQT. I recorded both full days of practice and both days of the tournaments. I got the whole rough edit done and everything. It's going to be a blend of like me sitting here talking about it a little bit and then like a ton of footage with it. It's going to be probably like a 35-minute video. So it's going to be a long one. But I figure people probably like that better than seeing like 2 days of practice talking about that and then a separate video 2 days of the tournament. Like, I'm not really even keen on that myself. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd just rather dump it all into one, even if it's a long one. You know, people will probably take a couple of shots at it to watch the whole thing. But I'm excited to see how this is going to go. So there's that. For weekend fishing report for me, caught 2 donkey smallies in New Hampshire, which is awesome. 5.52 and a 5.492. Both on drop shot, max scent flatworm. It was weird. They were staged in areas that I didn't expect them to because the water temp was still way warmer. It was 72, and
that is really surprising.
Yeah, I mean, given the size of the body of the water and its location, I expected maybe like 68, 69, 71 to 72. Like, so not a huge difference, but enough that like I fully anticipated lower than 70.
Right. And I feel like a lot of days, like even during the day, the air temperature hasn't gotten to 70 for like, so I'm surprised that it's holding that high.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand it, but it's fine. It's all good. So yeah, no, that was good. And then my son hates fishing a drop shot, and I had him out there with me, and I caught the 4.92 and then the 5.52, and then I broke off a donkey, and I was like, oh man, we're like I'm like confident I could probably get, if I get 3 more bites, I'm gonna have 25 pounds today on 5 fish, and he was just not having it. So I was like, all right, let's go somewhere else, and somewhere I know it's got more structure so you can drag a jig, and he caught 2 fish in the first half an hour. And I didn't catch a fish till 3 hours after we changed spots.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny.
So slow day, but you got the quality.
Yeah, you know, so I'm not going to complain. It was good, and I had a fun day with my son. So there's that. I will say for those going out this weekend, I'm curious to see what all the rain coming tomorrow is going to bring for water temps, for any changes. But I don't know. We'll see. One last thing, just trying to figure out what we're doing here. So again, moving forward, everything should be back to normal, including Dennis being back here with the odd night here and there. If he's at work late, he'll call in, but no other scheduled changes coming up here for travel. One thing coming up won't have any impact on Wednesday. I'm going out with my buddy TJ, who goes by Smallmouth Freaks on Instagram. Good dude. He's been in a bunch of videos. He's been on Livestream. He's on like the 3rd live stream we ever did for this. And I'm going up with him to the St. Lawrence River for the Rumble on the River event. Well, oh boy, I forget who's doing that. Dockside Tackle. Oh boy. Now I got to double check because my brain is not there. Fish or Die Bait Company. Putting it on. Douglas Rods, title sponsor. Beast Coast Fishing, title sponsor. Who else is on there? Great Lakes Finesse Baits. A couple other guys. Good amount of money up on the line for this. I'm feeling pretty good about it because TJ's feeling really good about it, and him and I fish really well together. So I'm not doing the Berkshire Fall Classic. Instead, I'm just going to do the Rumble on the River up on the St. Lawrence, which makes me extremely excited.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. It'd be great. I'm going to get out of work probably at 3 on the Friday, day before. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes up to TJ's house in Vermont. Join in with him. Drive the rest of the way up. Fish the Durab all day Saturday. Go back out, fun fish probably till 1 or 2 Sunday. Head back home. Be home by 10.
When is that?
October 19th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the non-on-topic related things. Last but not least, and then I promise we're getting into it, for everybody that is here, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you as always. Do us a favor, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, doesn't matter. Leave a like. Comments after the fact are going to be great, so it'll be awesome. Jody... Wait, I flip-flop my screens how I look at this because of where I'm sitting now. Those are different weekends, why not fish both? Because I didn't win any money at my last 2 tournaments. I'm trying to balance out how much I spend and how much time away I am. If I go up and do the Berkshire, that's at minimum like $600 between the tournament entry fee, finding a place to stay, gas money. Yeah. And it's going to be about $400, I think, total to do this St. Lawrence event. Maybe $500 on the high side. So I don't really want to do both. My wife is not keen on me going 2 consecutive weekends, which is fair enough to her. Plus, that weekend is the Pumpkin Festival in Milford, New Hampshire, during the Berkshire Fall Classic. So I've missed it every year the last 4 years because it's always happened the same time as the Berkshire thing. And my wife and kids love going. So
yeah,
they're
the
like,
the beer tasting tent and all that. It's the best.
I can't do that because I'm on keto. Like, so if there's a whiskey tasting tent, I'm all over it. I can drink
Actually, last year they did have whiskey there too.
Really?
Yeah, they had like
Perfect.
2 stands that had whiskey. Yeah.
Yep. So I mean that's really the biggest reason why I'm not doing both, because the family asked that I be home for that festival, and there it is. You can't miss the pumpkin festival. Oh, wrong one. So yeah, that's it. And all right, last one. Dog bone. Did Andrew get to Florida okay? Yes, he did. He's doing well down there. He's working on his boat, trying to find a job in the meantime. He spent some money on his boat, so he's just making everything work. We talk, just briefly, almost every day still. So he is doing well. Enough chit chat. It's been 10 minutes. Let's talk about power fishing. And again, this is about your favorite thing, because you are a power fisherman to the core.
I sure am.
So I think, unless you have a different idea, we cover this just like anything else. We cover favorite baits and the whys, and then we go over areas, focal points.
Okay.
Really, yeah, for all that.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of talking. Jody's spinning rods suck. You can power fish a drop shot, all right? That's all I'm saying.
You can. That's my favorite way to fish.
Not gonna lie. Tomorrow we have the New Hampshire high school bass fishing tournament, the first one that every high school fishes. It's up on Winnipesaukee out of Center Harbor. I am assistant coach for the Sauhegan fishing team, and we are boat 1, which is awesome. And I was tying up my rods so they could use them all, because they don't have a lot, and I know all mine are better than anything they have, so just let them use it. Tying up all my spinning rods. I tied on heavier leader on the drop shot with a 1/2 ounce weight, because they're straight up going to be power fishing a drop shot tomorrow.
Good. That's awesome.
Yep.
Are you nervous about the rain?
No, dude, I was out there 3 years ago, second to last year I did this, and I crap you not, I'm positive it was like a baby microburst that came in, because we could see it coming. It was a literal wall of rain, but it was narrow. Like, you could very easily see the left and right side of it. Yeah. And it went from dead calm and a drizzle to an insane downpour, insane temperature drop, and straight line parallel, like 45-mile-an-hour winds sustained. Jesus. It was, honest to God, that is still to this day the most intense shit I've ever been in. So having been in that, a little rain tomorrow is fine. It's not gonna be windy either, so it'll be good.
Deal with that. You can still crap all over me even if I'm wearing normal clothes. That's fine. I'm sure people will find something else to make fun of me about.
I was like, what are you talking about?
There's plenty of things. That's just one of the many aspects that you can make fun of.
He is right though. You're not bougie today.
That's true. This is just got home from vacation mode.
Yep.
All right.
But start. What's your favorite thing to do for power fishing this time of the year?
So for me, number 1 bait for me is a jerk bait this time of year. Number 2, I'll just go through my top 3, I guess, and then we'll go from there. But number 1 would be a jerk bait. Number 2 would be a spinner bait, and number 3, I guess this is kind of power fishing, but it would actually be a drop shot with a heavy weight. I don't know. That's kind of on the verge of power fishing or not, depending on how I fish it. But jerkbait is definitely my starter. I've caught more. I've said it on the show plenty of times, but I've caught more big fish on a jerkbait than I think every other technique combined. I've caught several 8-pound largemouth on a jerkbait and many 6-pound smallmouth on a jerkbait. So I have a ton of confidence in a jerkbait. I know that I can make them bite a jerkbait. That's what I start with. That being said, in the past few years specifically, I've had some amazing days on a spinnerbait in the fall when I could not get touched on anything else. So I think spinnerbait is definitely a close second. And it's weird because there you go. I feel like there's a lot of times where I've said this on the show too, but I feel like there's a lot of times where I'm like, I just can't figure it out. Like, it's just not happening today. Like, I'll get 1 or 2 bites and it's just not happening no matter what I do. And then I'll just fish a spinnerbait as fast as I can. And it's like, oh, that's what it is. And then I'll end up catching like 15 or 20 on a spinnerbait.
Yep. Dude, something about the spinnerbait just, for me, has always done better than the jackhammer in the fall. Jackhammer in the spring, spinnerbait in the fall.
I totally agree. I will fish a spinnerbait in the spring sometimes, but jackhammer, I fish that 99.9% of the time over a spinnerbait in the spring. In the fall, I don't really fish a jackhammer that much in the fall. I will, but I stop fishing grass a lot and I start fishing hardcover. I mean, we're talking like once the water cools off a good amount. Right now,
Right.
you'll still get them in the grass, but once the water really cools off and you're down in like the 40s, like they'll be on the edges of grass, but I'm not focused on it as much. I'm more tending towards or leaning towards hardcover, and I do a lot better with a spinnerbait in those situations.
Yeah, same. And jackhammers just have a tendency, as soon as they hit anything hard, to roll over and go hook point
Exactly.
down.
Yeah. Right.
Every time. Whereas a spinnerbait, you can bounce off literally anything and it just keeps on trucking. Doesn't miss a
Right.
beat. And I do think that a big part of that too, with that spinnerbait bite being better, like, I mean, essentially the two blades almost look like two little bait fish. So you got that young of the year coming up,
Yep.
and they kind of shift gears of what they're feeding on. I also feel like some of the shiners become a little bit more active in that colder water too anyway. So, because like I've had some magical days this time of the year burning a spinnerbait up in the shallows, and especially near inlets and outlets.
Oh yeah.
Even when the vegetation's like really gone, which also, to your point about vegetation, I was shocked by how much had died off already this past weekend.
Oh
In
really?
both ponds I went to. Yeah. Like
Huh.
second pond we went to, there's usually like a ton of good vegetation up shallow. Almost all of it was gone. Anything that like the roots were in 5 to 6 feet or deeper, that was still holding on pretty well, but you could tell it was starting to wilt down anyway and just starting to kind of die
That's
off.
good. I want that. That makes it easier. Then that's like one thing out of the equation now that you don't have to deal with.
Right. But and then there's that which is what I'm sure what I ran into Sunday. There's that little bit of a transition for all those fish, like especially in areas that have a ton of grass, and like that's just what they're on because that's the
Yeah.
majority of what they have. And even if you have a lot of hard structure too, like if that grass is in the right depth, they're gonna go for that. Especially right
Yep.
now where it seems most are feeding on yellow perch more than smelt, even in places smelt are really prevalent, at least in the past. And all of a sudden all that cover disappears and everybody's kind of left scrambling like, where do I go? And it takes them a little bit. I'm
Yeah,
not
it takes
sure
a
how
while.
long. Body water to body water, I'm sure it varies, but dude, I tell you, like I saw a decent amount of fish on that second body water on that, like from where the grass line would have ended, next shift out to that hard structure, they were there, but they were just being wicked fickle and it was hard to get any to bite. So I think this weekend, totally different story.
Yeah, and I think it probably has a lot to do with the grass diet. Like they're so used to being in the grass, ambushing things from the grass where they can shoot out, grab something, go back. That one that dies, like as soon as that starts emitting a bunch of nitrogen when it's dying, like they don't that displaces the oxygen, and then they don't want to be in there. They don't want to be around stuff that's dying because of the
Right.
nitrogen. So like
Yep.
that changes them, and then they don't have that ambush anymore, and like I'm sure that it puts them in a funk for a few days while they figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah. All the bait fish kind of settle in where they want to be, and the bass just settle in on top of them.
Right.
To all of your points that you had brought up, Dogwell wants to know what's your rod preference for a spinnerbait.
Well, you're not going to like
Get
my
ready
rod.
for the bouge.
Yeah, you're not going to like my rod preference. So the spinnerbait rod that I use is a Mega Bass Evolution Super Diablo Type L, which is you don't have to get. That's a $650 rod, so you definitely don't need to get that rod. But what I like when throwing a spinnerbait is something that is rod is 7'2", and it's what I would call on the heavy side of medium heavy. So it's medium heavy, but it has enough give in the tip. It's not just a broomstick. Like it's not a jig rod, which a lot of jig rods have a little give in the tip too. So maybe that's not a good comparison.
Yeah.
But it's something where I would say like the first quarter of it is kind of moderate, and then it turns into a more of a heavy action rod. So spinnerbait has a big hook, and if you don't have a rod that is very powerful, you're going to lose a lot of fish because you're not going to be able to drive that giant hook home. But you also throwing a spinnerbait is a pain because it helicopters and things like that. So if you have a broomstick, you can't throw it at all. So it's really a kind of a balance.
Yep. I have a very wide range of rods I can recommend. from both Douglas and Lew's. So starting with Douglas, because they are I say my, but it's really ours, but it's also still really my, because I know Dennis ain't going to step down from those Mega Bass rods, which is totally fair. Would never ask him to. So Douglas, the X Matrix or the LRS, the 745F. If you want something a little bit softer, the 744F is also really good, but I have really, it's a 745F. They also have a 765XF, and both are kind of like what Dennis was explaining, where they're a little bit on the medium side of medium heavy. That would say the 745F is very close to a true medium heavy. And I really like both those rods. The 745 is kind of like a do-all for it. That 765XF, it's a long rod, but dude, if you're fishing like a ton of open water, you're throwing, say, like a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, straight fluoro, and you're bombing that thing, and especially if you're fishing it deep, then I actually would like that slightly longer rod in that application. But a 745, so it's 7.4 medium heavy. Technically, it's a heavy at the 5, but it's more medium heavy at that point. Fast action, like it's a nice balance and everything. The X Matrix is better components all in all. That'll set you back about $330-ish. The LRS is more of a budget-friendly build, and that'll set you back about $180 or $190. I can't remember. It's somewhere in there. And then behind that, you have the new ERA rods from Douglas, and those are retail at $100. They have a 7'4" medium heavy fast. That rod is, like, to me, the ultimate jack of all trades, do everything for like kind of heavier applications rod. I have been fishing the ever living crap out of that rod for the last 2 months, throwing a bunch of different things on it. 3/8 ounce and 1/2 ounce jigs of all varieties. So my trailer's been all over the place. Friggin' 5/8 ounce wobblehead, spinnerbaits, jackhammers, Texas rigs, like even light Texas rigs, Tokyo rig, free rig, Jika rig. Like, I have been putting this rod through its paces so that I can confidently say what I feel it's good at and where its limitations are. And thus far, for like almost all those, I really haven't found many limitations to it. It's phenomenal. It's got a lot of backbone. It's wicked light for, $100 rod with cork handle or cork grip on it. I literally cannot say enough good things about these rods, and I'm going to buy more of them, even though I know I can get the X Matrix because I'm on the team. So like, get that deal, and they're phenomenal. I love those rods, but I want to incorporate more of those $100 ones so I can continue to speak more about those for everybody that are trying to do things on a budget. And my God, are they just absolutely amazing rods. And then on the loose side, if they still haven't, because I haven't looked at their rods now in almost 2 years, but I use them for all of my reels. If they still have it, the Custom Pro Speed Stick or the something like that, it's about a $150 rod. Those are really good. The foam grips on them are a little bulky for my personal preference, but the overall balance on them and the weight on them, great. They had a 7.2 heavy fast and 7.2 medium heavy fast. That heavy fast really wasn't overbearing. If you had to finesse in even like a 3/8 ounce spinnerbait on it, you could do it, but 1/2 ounce generally, that's where that rod was happier. The 7.2 medium heavy fast, didn't matter what you threw in it. That was phenomenal rod. So those are really good. Also, the Lew's Custom the Signature Series rods, if they still have those are still also really, really good. Little pricier. I think those are closer to like $180. But you can't go wrong with any of those. So we have covered from 100 to the high hundreds to 100, mid hundreds, high hundreds, low 300s, mid 600s. There's a lot of options for you. At some point, one of those is going to cover you. Moving on, another question, because you talked about jerk baits. Mark, Northeast Bass Fishing, do you use the +2 in the fall, or is it regular 110 to go to?
So it depends on the depth. It's a nothing answer, but if I want to use a regular 110 because in the fall I want to find them shallow, so I'm always starting to look shallow and trying to use a 110. But in this time of year, like I'm trying to go to the fish. I'm not trying to draw the fish too far. They will come up and hit a regular 110 even if they're in 20 feet of water or whatnot. But if I'm marking them and I know that they're on a school of smelt or something like that in 25 feet of water, 30 feet of water, I'll use the +2 just so that they have less distance to go and it just ups your odds. I would say right now, if I'm out there right now, I'm probably going more with a 110 because I'm probably not going to be looking ultra deep right now, unless you're on a body of water where they're really on smelt. Like on Winnie right now, they might be on smelt and they might be out in 50 feet of water. But most of the smaller lakes and things like that where they're not on smelt and they're on yellow perch or shiners or something like that, I'm going with a regular 110. And then I would say as the water gets down into the 40s and the low 40s and the high 30s, that's when I'm really, you're not going to find them as well, at least in as many numbers up in 4 or 5 feet of water. Then they're going to be more out deeper. And then I'm really limiting myself down to the +2.
Yep. I would, man, I really can't add anything to that because I literally take the same approach. And I would say it's also exceedingly rare that I use anything other than the 110 this time of the year. Whereas in the spring, it's the whole range, 110, 110 plus 1, and the +2. But right now, I'm with you. Like, I'm trying to catch those fish in that transition where they've come out of their deep haunts and they're going to push up to the bank for a little bit, but they're kind of hovering, not quite on the bank, but just out a little bit. Like, that is the perfect area to just be cracking the hell out of that 110 over their heads. Yep. And I mean, Christ, you and me beat the piss out of them. Was that 2 years ago when we did that together?
No, we do this like every week. Like, was it 1 year ago, 2 years ago? I don't know, whatever it was. But yeah,
time is blending. It's all coming together, and it's just all looks like one big same memory. So,
and it's all turning gray.
Yeah, white in my case. That's a couple of years away from you, so you don't start shit.
I know, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Maverick, what blade combo for spinnerbaits? I'll do for me this time of the year. Actually, I will go double willow more often than not. Although I really do like a double Indiana too. But double willow usually. I'm fishing it fast.
Yeah, same. Double willow, and that speaks to how we're fishing it. You use a double willow because you're burning it, and that's what you want to do most times in the fall. Is the fall is the time of year, which I'm probably talking about things out of order, but like the fall is a time of year where you're not going to have your most successful days trying to convince fish to bite that don't want to bite. You're going to have your most successful days constantly moving until you find the fish that are going to bite. So it's not like in the spring or in the middle of the summer where you just say, I'm going to slow down and if that doesn't work, I'm going to go even slower. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go even slower and I'm going to go more and more finesse. Like, this is the time of year where you move until you find the ones that are biting. And then when they stop biting, you move until you find more that are biting. So burning a spinnerbait is the way to do that. And double willow is the best blade combination to burn them. And that's also why we both talked about rods that have a little bit of moderate tip to them. That helps with two things. One, it helps with casting it, obviously, but it also helps where when you're burning it, that tip will bend a little bit before it really gets to the backbone of the rod. So you're not just yanking the spinnerbait out of the fish's mouth before it gets a chance to really inhale it. So that little bit of moderation in the tip gives you a much better chance at being able to get the hook in the fish when they bite it, especially when you're burning it. Yep.
Wholeheartedly agree. And for me, for spinnerbaits right now too, I'm power fishing. I don't do any trailers. I do nothing. I don't even put a stinger hook on the back or trailer hook. I just straight stock spinnerbait. I usually fish really loud, obnoxious colors too, because I'm burning it so fast. I really haven't had many days where I really had to match the hatch. Like I'm like going with a white and gold or like a white and copper or like an all white or like an all green pumpkin. If I want to really, like if I'm in gin clear water, then I'll kind of tone it down a little bit, but I'm not getting crazy with anything that I'm doing. I'm just really, really relying on how fast that thing's cruising by and the thump from the blades and just I will pick apart. Like if I know I've got a good boulder that typically holds fish, I'm going to throw it around that 5 or 6 times while burning the thing. And I'm going to try and kiss the side of the rock from a couple of different angles too. So if they're kind of sitting down at the bottom where it meets the ground, and sometimes there's like a little bit of a cuppage to the rock, then like they'll come up out of that and smoke it after you deflect it too. I'm just
totally agree.
Fast.
Totally agree.
I know you guys don't throw topwaters confidently, you said, but a buzzbait or a spook walking later this fall should be on this fall list, in my opinion. A spook, yes, but not in the context of this conversation where we're talking about power fishing. Like, yeah, you can fish a spook fast, but I can't confidently speak to that. So Dennis, if you can, by all means, but I've never fished a spook that fast where like this time of the year, power fishing it, where it's really panned out for me. Buzzbait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but yeah, I've had some good days on a buzzbait and spook this time of year. Like the only day that I can remember where I had like a good spook day in the fall was on Winnie actually, and I think it was in September, like 5 years ago or something, and the smallmouth were on smelt and they were in like 65 feet of water. So the majority of the day was all fishing heavy drop shot, really, really deep. But at like every now and then, like every 20 minutes or so, a group of fish would come up to the surface. And I don't know if they were chasing smelt up to the surface or if they would just see, I don't know, something else, bugs or whatever on the surface and just like, we'll give that a shot. But like it was weird. Like every 20 minutes or so, it would be like, oh, there's a group over there, and there's a group over there, and then I would just zoom over and like whip a spook out there, and I'd be able to catch like one or two while they were up there. But then everything was gone, and it was back fishing 65 feet deep. So like that was the only day that I could think of. But it wasn't fishing the spook fast. It was that you had to get there fast and cast fast and like get right to their spot. But I agree with the buzzbait though.
Yeah, buzzbait. I'm fishing fast. Enough that I can still hear the squeak out of it, and I'm getting a chop out of it versus it's like kind of really riding on top of the surface. I know it sounds kind of strange, but like a moderately worked pace for a buzzbait, you've always got one blade that's like truly cupping, like going all the way down through the water, cupping it and throwing it. At this point, like I'm basically just having the blades barely kissing the surface because I'm burning it back. And I've had really, really good success with that, especially around the outside edges of lily pads, because they're always the last things to die. Yeah. And even after they've died, if the water temp's still like appropriate for it, and even though the pads themselves aren't on the surface anymore, but the stalks, I know that those will hold fish, my God, till way, 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 way late in the year. And I've caught really good fish just burning over the top of all that dead crap because the conditions pulled those bass back up super shallow for a week or so, even in November. But yeah, like right now, that's one of my favorite buzz baits to go for. Or top water baits to go for right now is buzz bait, and especially this time of the year. Sean Place, so what you're saying is fall is big swim bait time. Yes, I would say like if you've got big multi-piece crankdowns, like basically think of it as a giant square bill, it's my favorite time to throw it. And especially when they're like really moving back into the shallows, feeding on the young of the year, which is dumb, right? Like it doesn't seem to make sense. I'm going to throw a big 7-inch 3-piece crank down swim bait, but it's not just bass that are going up there to eat the young of the year. That's also bigger bait fish that are going up there to eat young of the year and everything else like that. So you get a lot of yellow perch that are coming up there too. I got quite a few big swim baits that look like yellow perch, and dude, they get crushed this time of the year. I'm actually extremely excited for right now because I have had an abysmal year just for largemouth in general. And with that, my big swim bait game has been pretty terrible. So I'm kind of hoping I can finally turn it around here in the next few weeks. We'll see. I did get one on it the other day, but nothing right home about on the size. It's just a little guy. Mark, do you guys throw the 110 and the 110 plus 110 plus 1 junior to match the smaller bait? It's you.
It depends on the bait. So I typically start with a standard size 110, but this time of year I will have both tied on, and I don't like the standard 110 junior as much as the rest of the lineup. I like the 110 plus 1 junior. I like that one a lot. So I would say more so rather than going to like if they're not hitting the 110, rather than going to a regular 110 plus 1, I would go to a 110 plus 1 junior this time of year for some reason. Like if I feel like they're on that smaller bite, I just like the plus 1 junior more than the regular one. The smaller, like the standard junior, I feel like is difficult to cast, and like it rolls too much when I fish it, and I don't want to fish it on a spinning rod, and like so the junior plus 1 is good though. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. I'm going a little bit out of order on this, but just because
makes sense.
It does make sense given what we're talking about and the pacing of this. From Dan, thoughts on burning a swim jig in shallows in place with spinnerbait? 110% yes. I will, more often than not, because I have enough rods to do it, I will have a swim jig with a swim bait trailer on it, Usually a Beast Coast working man's jig, 1/4 ounce, and then like a 4 to 5 inch paddle tail swim bait in the back, a jackhammer just in case, and a spinnerbait. And my 1-2 punch is always going to be spinnerbait, then swim jig, swim bait. And like that, and that's only because of recently my spinnerbait bite game has been better than the swim jig with the swim bait trailer. But God, probably for like 8 years, starting 2 years ago, go back 8 years. And in the fall, a swim jig with a swim bait in the back, and more often than not, it was actually like a 5-inch paddle tail in the back, was the ticket for my biggest fish. And I remember going out in November, first weekend in November. There's a video of it up on the channel. It's like one of the oldest videos I have out there. And that's literally all I did. I went up. We had just gotten a lot of rain, so I figured with the warm rain that came in, it would pull the fish back into the shallows, and it did. I forget what the water temps were, but they weren't freezing by any means yet. And all I threw was a 1/4 ounce swim jig with a 5-inch Kitech on the back, and I wrecked them for like 2 hours that I had out there. And I had a 515, a 505, 2 4.5s, a couple of 3 3/4, a bunch of 2s, and it was just like, that's what those bigger fish wanted. It kind of comes back to that previous point of not only young of the year that move up, but also the bigger bait fish that are moving up to eat those too. And the bass do not discriminate between the two. If they're hungry and they see one that's easy to ambush, they're going to eat it regardless of the size. And
smaller bass. There's smaller bass up there eating those bait fish too, and bigger bass will eat a smaller bass in a second.
Oh yeah. Let's kind of lightning round through these, because I there's a few more things I want to bring up too. Sure. Massing and bassing. So what size for the spinnerbaits? He said overall size, not weight, but I'll leave this for that. I don't know how to explain this, because like a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait generally is about the same size across the board. This is Strike King one.
Yeah, standard size. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not throwing like a giant musky spinnerbait, but I'm also not throwing like a finesse spinnerbait. Like I throw 1/2 ounce too, because I like to burn them. So standard, regular, I guess regular size, like 1/2 ounce, medium size.
Yeah, like literally any of the Defiant spinnerbaits, which are amazing. Like those are great. Rocky Ledge Tackle out of Pittsfield, New Hampshire. They have some, I would say, bigger than average size spinnerbaits, but they're not ginormous. And I exclusively fish those for years. They are awesome. I kind of changed my preference for what I like out of a spinnerbait. Theirs are stout, about the most durable spinnerbait you can get out there. So like if that's your jam, then that, like, you literally cannot get any better than that. Plus they're lead free, which is always good. Given the ban on lead pretty much everywhere. So I guess it's hard to explain. Like, I guess from the tip of the head to the tip of the arm where that last willow blade is maybe 2.5 inches. Overall height on that is maybe 3.5 inches. So like, I would say that's even a smidge small compared to a standard spinnerbait size. Anything from that to about an inch taller overall, I'm happy with that range. Like you said, I don't go for the musky size ones.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And this is, Mark, I've been throwing the 3/4 ounce Defiant spinnerbait around lately with decent success. I think that bite will get better as the water cools. Wholeheartedly agree. And then Steve John, there it is. Sorry. What gear ratio? I mean, for me, 6.3 to 1.
No, I use 8 to 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on a spinnerbait, I do.
I probably should, and I just never do. I don't have enough reels to go around to do that, because if I'm up there this time of the year and they're shallow, I'm always going to have a jig tied on, so I'm never going to give up any of my jig reels for it, because there's been plenty of days where it's like you go through a patch and you're cracking them, and then you kind of hit a little dead zone and you crack them a little bit, and then the bite slows down a little bit and you get a couple more bites over here, and it's like, okay, pretty sure they're still here, and they're just not now. They're either key what I'm doing or just
they know you're there or something. Yeah.
Right. So I'm intentionally going to do this because I'm being a little petty about it, but I got a nasty comment on the short that I posed about talking about jigs too much. So power fishing a heavy jig is definitely key for a good follow-up, but it's not the first thing I'm going to do, and this is literally the only thing I'm going to bring up about jigs during this episode. So Little Magnum from Beast Coast Fishing, it is a grass jig. I go with a 1/2 ounce on this. I keep it very natural colors, either straight green pumpkin or I do a stealth craw. This is my cleanup duty guy because it's still bottom contact and I'm being extremely precise with it. But if I'm going through an area and I'm either getting a couple of short strikes or I hooked one and I missed one, or I've already like thoroughly covered an area and beat the crap out of them so bad with whatever it is, either spinnerbait or jackhammer or a swim jig, but I feel like there's still some fish left behind that I didn't get to pick up on, I'm going to pick up my Douglas X Matrix 715F. So it's a 7-1 heavy fast rod and half-ounce jig, 8.3 to 1 ratio reel. And I'm literally just going to sit there and pitch. And I'm not going to move it more than 20 feet from the boat. And I'm going to go back through all the same areas I caught those fish. And I'm going to pick apart every single piece while keeping the trolling motor on like a constant 3 or 4 speed. So you're moving, but you're not cruising.
Moving, yeah.
And it's that for me is power fishing a jig. Like you're just trying to pick apart and hopefully kind of smack a fish on the head that you couldn't get to commit to that spinnerbait or swim bait or whatever it was that you're throwing through there, and just give them a slightly different look. But I'm not going to sit there and methodically pick apart like one piece of vegetation from 10 casts from 5 different sides. Nope, I'm going to pitch at it twice. And the moment I'm like kind of pitching behind myself, I'm on to the next one. And I'm just going to go right through and pick it all apart. And I will always pick up a few fish while doing that for cleanup duty, but it's not even the first thing that I do when I'm out there this time of the year. Yes, power fishing, but not power fishing in the sense we're talking about.
But you're not dragging it. Like you're not fishing a football jig in 30 feet of water where you're counting the pebbles that it's going over. Like you're pitching it, it's hitting the bottom, you're moving it a little bit and then reeling it in, doing it again.
Yeah, exactly. And I specifically said a half ounce because I really should get the 3/4 ounce little magnums. I just haven't bought any yet. But if you have a 3/4 ounce crash jig, even better, because I'm going purely for that reactionary strike, which is pretty much what all power fishing is anyway.
Right.
So I don't want them to get a chance to really see it. I am rocking that thing by their faces to the bottom. I'm going to give it a quick hop, and then I'm going to reel it back and I'm going to do it again over and over and over and over. I'm just
which is kind of
rifling through.
It's kind of like the same thing that we always say that we do with a drop shot when we say we're power fishing a drop shot. Like that's what we're doing, except we're doing it in 20 feet of water instead of 2 feet of water.
Right. Yeah. Power fishing drop shot is great. You just fire it out, watch your line, hits the bottom, lift up, shake, 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 shake. Nothing. Reel it in really fast. Do it again.
Yep. It's my favorite way to do it.
Yeah. And it's like not too dissimilar from a jig kind of in that aspect because you're trying to pick up the last few fish on the bottom. And you can do the same thing with an open water sniper if you really want to get picky with it. You can throw a half-ounce sniper for like a true open water or hard structure, no vegetation approach to it. And just some days it's all in the preference of the fish. Sometimes they will only eat something if it's directly on the bottom. If you're down low, right. You can still get them up high doing a number of different things. But when it comes to bottom feeding, they will only eat it if it's on the bottom, and then there are days where they will only eat it when it's like just a little bit off the bottom, which is where that power fishing with the drop shot comes in. But I digress. If I'm really going to talk about jigs for power fishing this time of the year, I'm going with a swing head, which is not really a jig per se. It's not a skirted jig, and this is something that we don't talk about a lot, and I don't think many people talk about this much at all either anyway. But my God, is this still extremely potent, and especially this time of the year. You're just giving them a slightly different look on a craw profile, and you can fish it fast. If I'm doing this, I'm fishing half-ounce to 3/4 ounce. I'm getting it down the bottom, and I'm basically swimming it. More often than not, I'm swimming that thing just along the bottom, and I'll still do it with a high-speed reel. I'll just kind of slow reel as I'm going. But rarely am I letting that swing head actually sit on the bottom and do anything. I might work in a quick pause like I would anything else, but for the most part, I'm straight swimming this thing. And it's stupid how many fish you get on what, it doesn't even make sense. It's like, crawfish. They don't just continuously swim, but they don't care. They just see the fact that they're seeing something that looks like food that they typically eat, and all of a sudden they're just all over it.
I totally agree. Swing head is awesome. We've talked about it we talked about it, I feel like a month ago for some other reason, but
not
enough people use it for sure.
No, and I will. All right, I'll tell you. It's going to come up. It's going to be shown in that STQT follow-up video anyway. That was my best bait right there, right in my hand. 5/8 ounce wobblehead with a Strike King Rage Bug. Although this is the Magnum one. I did get a couple of fish on this too. But my biggest fish I caught on day one, actually, I think 3 of the 5 keepers, that I weighed in, all on a wobblehead. almost everything I caught during scouting was wobblehead, but it was like pull up to a spot, get a fish, leave. Pull up to another spot, get a fish, not quite the right size. All right, let's try again. Second fish is good, left. Literally every single spot that I fished in the 3 days of scouting that I had, my first or second fish we put in the boat, either mine or Brandon Lyon, who I was traveling with, was on that or a different jig, and it was a big fish. We're like, okay, out. We never caught more than 2 fish on a single spot.
It's awesome. It's funny. We could do that. We could do that.
We could.
Yeah. When I was a kid, like, we talked a lot about like how long I've been going to Champlain. Like when I was a kid and I would go up to Champlain, one of my favorite things that I would use is a football jig head without the skirt and like a beaver or a craw or something like that on the back of it. And I would catch so many more fish on that than I would using a skirted jig because, like, I guess because the water is very clear in the areas that I was fishing or whatever. And then like the, Tommy Biffle and all that came out with like the Biffle bug and the Biffle head and all that. And I started doing that, and it's like, oh, it's like an even more weedless version of what I was doing. And it's like the biggest light bulb thing that like nobody uses that up here, but it's so effective.
Yeah, no, wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I am trying to multitask and wait, why am I doing it that way?
I got to make some burner accounts to talk crap about you talking about jigs so much. I like that idea.
So, no, I'm not going to go down that road. No, it was just like, it didn't even bother me. It was just like, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, we talk about jigs a lot and we catch a lot of fish on jigs because they're always different. Because what they're eating is always different. It's not like I'm just throwing a green pumpkin jig every single day from ice out to ice in. There's a lot of changes that happen in there. But Oregon Smalljaw. I also love a double gold willow spinnerbait with a bluegill pattern skirt. Now we're talking. See, I could really get behind that. That's my spinnerbait game has been so like the last 2 years. I would say probably 3-4 years ago is when it got really bad, and then it really picked back up a little bit recently. So unfortunately, I just haven't had to buy a spinnerbait in a while, so a lot of the ones I have are like starting to rust out pretty bad, even though I put those like moisture wicking packets in there, whatever the hell they are. I got to buy some more spinnerbaits, and that intrigues me. I want to add that to the arsenal. That just sounds phenomenal. There's a couple other comments. This is funny because all of this conversation so far has been derived off the 3 things you do, and I've only talked about one thing myself. This is great. Oregon Smalljaw. How long do you let a jig sit before moving it, and how long will you fish each cast of the jig? I kind of just talked about that. It varies. Like if we're purely talking power fishing thing, I'm letting it sit for maybe 3 seconds at the max.
Yeah. There's no right answer to that question though. Like it depends.
Yeah, it's a little broad.
Yeah, it depends. There are days where they'll bite it the second that it hits the bottom, and there are days where they'll only bite it if you don't move it for 30 seconds.
Right.
That's one of the things you got to experiment with.
Case in point, where we went 2 different bodies of water on Sunday, me and my son, my oldest son, and we got 2 fish on jigs at the second body of water, and we got I did get 1 fish on a jig at the first body of water. First body of water smoked it. Like it hit the bottom and thunk, and I got him. It wasn't anything big. I think it was like a 2-pound smallie.
Yeah.
And then the rest of that was drop shot. And I'm not going to talk about how I had to get those fish because I had to use live scope to really see what they were doing and how they reacted. And it took me like an hour before I finally figured it out. And that 4.92 is my first reward for it. And then the 5.52 followed doing the exact same thing. But so first one happened really fast. Jig at the bottom. I saw it come rocketing in out of nowhere and smoked it. Second body of water, I watched them. Jig would fall. They would swim up to it. They'd follow it almost to the bottom, and then they get within 2 feet of the bottom, and then they back up a few feet, and then I'd watch them just inch way in from just this snail's pace. And I would just have to give it this little tweet, tweet, but not really move it, just kind of bounce it, and then all of a sudden, then they would eat it. So 2 entirely different cadences on 2 bodies of water that were not that far from each other on the same exact day. Right now with that water temperature, I would say more often than not, I'm going to get them pretty fast, especially once we get past this like dead vegetation phase and they transition to the hard structure more consistently. And I won't start slowing down until the water probably gets to about the mid 50s. And then that's where I'm really going to let it sit and soak for 3 to 5 seconds, move a little bit, repeat. And then as it gets slower, just you're increasing it. Then we get into low 40s and you're letting it sit and soak for 30 seconds without touching it before you're getting bit.
Yeah.
Dropman, crawl trailer versus swim bait on a swim jig. I use a smaller Beast Coast swim jig. What do you use on your swim jigs?
I'll usually start with a Kitech or something of the sort, a swim bait. And if that doesn't work, I will usually I'm typically not trying to imitate a crawfish on a swim jig. So I will use craw trailers, but I will turn them sideways so that rather than, like a dolphin kick, it's more like a fish kick so that it has the claws, but they're kicking like a fish rather than like a dolphin. And that seems to sometimes they'll really want that over a standard paddle tail. But I'm not usually fishing it like a crawfish. I'm fishing it like a fish. So I always start with a swim bait.
Yep. I'm right there with you on that. I want to say probably 75% of the time I'm just straight up paddle tail swim bait. I keep it super simple. However, there are some days where there'll be usually what keys me in on it is I'll get short struck like 3, 4, 5 times. I'm like, okay, I can do something a little different, but typically it's that volume of that 4 to 5 inch paddle tail that is really contributing to them wanting to eat that. And if you go down to a 3.3 paddle tail, you lose a lot of the volume on that too. They scale very appropriately.
Yeah.
So that's where going to like striking rage car or even the Beast Coast Flippin' Delight I've had great success with on the back of a swim jig. And you still get the volume on that just in a smaller package. And you can trim back the head on those a little bit without losing the overall volume and kick on those. So that's where a crawl trailer to me has always been very beneficial on those days where I can't get them to fully commit to that bigger swim bait. But I know if I downsize it, that's not going to give me the action that was drawing them in. I'm going to lose volume. So that's when the crawl profile comes in.
Yep. I get that.
Look at us. Freedom fishing. Do you ever roam shallow and new body of water while looking for bait to judge what to throw first for size and color? No, I'm too impatient. I will anticipate that what I'm hoping they're going to do the next day, and I will literally tie on a whole range of things, and I'll go to my areas that I probably said this 10,000 times now, my areas of highest probability of success. And I will go through and I will cover, say, a 300-foot section of shallow water where I just know that they're going to be there because history has repeatedly shown me year in and year out they are there. And I'll pick up one and I'll throw it for 20 casts. I'll go down to size, I'll throw it for 20 casts. I'll go down to the last size, I'll throw it for 20 casts, and I'll just keep rotating through them until I get bit on the first one. And then I'll stick with that for another 50 casts. And if I get a few more fish, then okay, I've honed in on it. If I get nothing in those 50 casts, I'll go up one more size. And I'll throw that for another 20, 30, 40, 50 casts. And I hone it in from there. If you've only got one way to go, I would say right now with the water temps being a little bit warmer, by all means, if you want to do that, take the time, go look for them. That's a great idea. I'm too impatient. I don't want to do that. I screw it. I'm going to throw something giant. I'm going to throw something little. And if I have a third rod set up, I'll throw something in between and I'll make it work from there. Yeah.
That would be the right way to do it. I think that this is going to sound like, I don't know, snobby, but I'm sure that you feel the same way as I do, that when you've done it long enough and you fish long enough and you've seen the conditions for long enough, you kind of have some intuition to know under these circumstances, they're probably doing this. They're probably eating this. And you can kind of narrow it down and give yourself at least the starting point that is close enough that you can catch a fish doing that. And then really you get that confirmation. This time of year, fish are eating a lot. So they're spitting stuff up when you're reeling them in. So really you get that positive confirmation when you're reeling them in and see what they're spitting up.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's perfect. It's one of those, I know it on the water and it didn't cross my mind. So I'm glad you made that point because 100% right. And I know it's frowned upon by a lot of people. But I will say if you got a good boat, good live well, like strong pumps and everything, don't be afraid to throw a fish in the live well and let him ride around with you for a few hours. See what he spits up in the live well.
Yeah.
May or may not do that on a regular basis. May or may not help me. I'm just saying. Throwing it out there. Massing and bassing. Volume as in cubic inches. So in reference to the overall size of the swim jig based on the trailer. I would look at it from a side profile, right? And when you've got something... you know what? Let me see if I can do this. There you go. Get a little closer. That's kind of what I'm talking about with volume. Like those are almost exactly the same length, but very clearly very different in overall volume. The size of the profile, the size of the body, the overall thickness. You know, like that's what I'm talking about. Those are essentially two of the same damn things, but very clearly different in overall size of the bait. So if I go from, if I had any handy right now, let's make things a lot easier. If I went from a 4.8 inch Kitech to a 3.3, I'm essentially going to get the same action out of them, but like clearly there's a huge difference, not just in the overall length, but the thickness, the overall diameter of the body towards the head of the bait. That 4.8 has got a lot more meat on it than 3.3. So that's the benefit of going to something like a Rage Bug or a Flippin' Delight or even a Rage Craw from Strike King, where all of those are still going to provide that same volume, that same diameter on the body, but I can trim back the head on this without giving up anything on the width of that profile. It's another way to put it.
The width is important.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Jody's talking crap about my jigs. Sean owns like 40,000 jigs. He's getting a 35-foot boat next year to get him on.
It's the best.
You're going to pick on me. I'm running low on jigs. Because
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you are. What are you down to 6 boxes of them?
8. I'm running low on snipers, all right? I'm sorry. The Rock's got a little handsy on me lately. So.
I actually am too, and I went to order some today, and they're out of like almost all of them.
I will privately tell you when there's a restock because I desperately need some, and I need to beat everybody to the punch. So I'm not going to make it public knowledge until I make my order, and then I'll let the rest of the world know when everything's going back in stock on Beast Coast website. But I will say it's very soon. Both website and retailers are getting a fresh restock on snipers and a few other things. So for anybody that's sitting there kind of chomping at the bit to refill on things, it's happening very, very soon. That's what we should do. We should continue to reach out to people like Derek at Beast Coast and be like, hey man, when's that restock coming? So we can, kind of help pump it up to other people, let them know, be the inside guys
Good
on
idea.
this knowledge.
Plus, we want to know. I want them.
Yeah. Screw you guys. We need more jigs.
I want it for myself.
Ben asked, Dennis may have this answer. How do you guys feel about cranking this time of the year? I'm also curious about circuit board crankbaits. Thoughts for them in the fall? Ooh. See, that's a great question. That 100% is all you.
Yeah. So cranking this time of year can be awesome. I didn't name it as one of my 3 baits, but it would probably be number 4. So if you're limiting it to 3, those are the 3 that it would be. But I always 100% of the time will have both a square bill and a deep diving crankbait, specifically one that you can burn, which is not all of them, but like a Megabass Deep 6 or a Megabass, Deep X 300 does it really well. River to Sea makes one that does it really well. But a deep diving crankbait that you can burn and a square bill that you can burn, which my favorite one is the Depths Evoke. That's something that does not roll when you reel it really fast because it is similar to a spinnerbait with the crankbait this time of year. I'm not trying to get one that's hungry. I'm trying to trigger one that is just sitting there and it just boom right by him, reaction strike.
Yeah.
Circuit board crankbaits are typically things that are like balsa. So I don't know how much everybody knows about them, but I have a little box of circuit board crankbaits. They're expensive, even for my taste. A lot of them are like $35 for a crankbait. A lot of them, I have like PH customs ones. A lot of them are like custom things. Those have a very specific use in my mind. And it's usually when I switch to fishing moving water, whether that's river. I fish the rivers a lot,
Yep.
Especially when it gets cold. In areas where there is current and the fish are pushed shallow, in cold water, they will go to wood. And those crankbaits are the absolute best thing to fish through those wood because they are balsa typically, and they are very, very high float that they cast like a potato chip. They cast absolutely horrible. So you have to basically get right up on the wood. But the reason that they cast so horrible is because they're so light and they're so buoyant. So you can reel it through a Christmas tree without getting stuck on it. And in cold rivers, when the fish push shallow, they go in those trees, and there's not very many things you can throw in those spots and not get hung up. So that is like the very specific use case that I use for them. I'm sure they work in other cases, but I don't choose them over other crankbaits basically, except for that situation for me personally.
Perfect. One of these days I will get back into cranking and I'll be able to contribute to the conversation. I've been talking about it for the last 2 years. I still haven't followed through. But trust me, it's coming, okay? I finally adopted BFS and the fuzzy dice and all that wonderful stuff. I'll get back to cranking.
We're converting you slowly.
I only have like 100 crankbaits still sitting around doing nothing. Bass Hole, New Hampshire. Question, best time of the day for fall? I'm still getting up early AM on fishing days. So, yeah, early AM, still very good. 2 p.m. Not quite the middle of the day, but on the other side of the middle of the day. Can't explain it. No idea why, but we'll say like 2 to 5 p.m. I have caught some big damn fish in that window. And like, it's weird. But, and then, you know what? I just saw it. I was about to say it. Jody just elaborated on it. Best time in the fall is whenever you can fish, or early in the morning or late in the evening. I mean, really, like, we are about to hit that golden point in the year where it doesn't matter what time of the day. But I will say that all of my big fish that have come this time of the year have been first thing in the morning or like around 2 o'clock. It's so strange. But not to say you're still not catching them the rest of the day. Right. Just those are the two best windows for the biggest fish that I've seen fairly consistently year in and year out. And not just for me, but also for other friends too. I don't know.
Towards the end of tournament time, keep stress level at its peak. I love that.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, dude, I caught that 4.96 smallie on Champlain at 2:15. So, yeah, dude, coming down to the wire, like that was not fun.
Was that your game plan all along? Like, we're holding out for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I wanted everybody to think that I was really just dog crap at this, and I as everybody came by, like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm about to go home. This sucks. And I just waiting for the really big fish for those nail biter finishes. Yeah, it was perfect. That could not, like, that was, I had just gotten my 5th fish maybe 20 minutes before that. And I was thinking, like, man, if I could just get like one more 3-pounder, I'll feel a little bit better about my day. Because I still had a 13-inch squeaker in there that wasn't even a pound. And then boom, 4.96 smallie, cull out that tiny thing. It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Dude, I
love that picture.
Dude, oh yeah, I need to share that elsewhere. I haven't even done that yet. I got to get a better one from a screenshot, but I caught that 4.96, and then the very next drop I caught, I think it is like a 3.5 to 3.75 smallie. I didn't weigh it because I just didn't need to.
You knew it wasn't going to help. That, yeah.
There's no point. I knew it was going in, and the likelihood of me culling it was unlikely at that point in the day. I had very little time. I culled up like 5.5 pounds almost in back-to-back casts. So
that's crazy.
Goes to show how shit my bag was before that. Clint, sorry it took a few minutes to get back to you on this one, but going to Lake Charlevoix. Oh, I wonder if I got that right, but probably not. Charlevoix? I don't know. This weekend, any idea on water temp? Also, what do you start with this time of year? I actually don't know what that lake is.
I don't know what that lake is either. I've never heard of it.
I am curious.
Yeah, somebody Google it so we can see.
And then get back to us. I'll leave it up there for a moment. Ryan Miller, hey, buddy. Haven't seen you in a minute. Dan T, hard pivot. Are you guys doing any seminars at the expo next year? Yes, I am. I'm curious if Dennis wants to do any. If he's going to be, well, first we haven't even talked yet about doing the expos this winter. If you're going to be able to help out at all between work schedule and family and everything. Yeah. And then secondary to that, if you would be interested in doing any of the seminars up there, because there's usually a little bit of wiggle room in there for a few more people to get squeezed in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'm good with it. I can definitely do like weekend days and stuff. Yeah.
You should. So both expos will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, that's fine.
So usually it's go down, set up Thursday night, wrap up, set up Friday morning, do everything, tear down Sunday, usually like 3 or 4 we start, and then drive back home. I am going to strongly suggest that you do a seminar on BFS fishing on the hog trough. Because you know it so damn well, and I think you would do really well with it. If you're comfortable with getting up there, I'll be there in the back with pom-poms. Yeah,
I'm going to wear the best polo.
Dude, no, please wear one of those shirts.
I'm down for that.
Wear one of those fancy polos and like some black leather pants or something. Like, just go for it.
I'll wear like my lower half will be tuxedo, and then my top half will be the most ridiculous polo that anybody's ever seen.
Nice. Where'd the starred comments go? Hang on, I just saw him. Oh, he said Michigan, Big Smalley Lake. I'd have to look at a depth chart, and I'd actually have to go back and find your previous comment because that was about 10 minutes ago. Oh, this weekend. Any idea on water temp? Also, what would you start with at this time of the year? So, oh boy,
I have no idea.
Yeah, no idea. I'm going to guess that he in that region is about the same as what we're looking at right now. Well, that water's probably pretty close to 70, and it could be a couple degrees on either side of it, but that area tends to cool off a little bit faster. Let's say it's 67 to 70, somewhere in that window. And if you're going for smallies, I'm going to say you still ought to be looking out a little bit deeper. And relative to whatever you can find for bait, up here in New Hampshire and actually a lot of regions, a lot of areas of New England, smelt populations have taken a hit. It's wild. In places that seemingly have had literally nothing change, smelt populations have taken a huge hit. So trying to find bite, any kind of pattern around that bite has been exceedingly difficult. Yellow perch bite, though, has been phenomenal. So really, smallmouth, I'm looking for bait fish, and then I'm looking on the outsides of those towards deeper water more often than not. That's without knowing anything else for specifics, that's the best advice I can give.
It's pretty good with having never heard of the lake and not even knowing what state it's in.
Smallmouth or smallmouth, it's fine. Just throw a drop shot. You don't need to worry about anything else. Boat potato. Chatterbait color and cadence for right now? You first.
Right now is a weird time because it depends on what they're eating. Like, if they're on crawfish, then I'm all in on red and orange and black. If they're not on crawfish, then I am bluegill. So,
like this sexy little number?
Like that one, yes. So I would say when you catch a fish, feel its belly. If its belly feels crunchy, they're eating crawfish. If its belly feels squishy, they're eating fish. If they're eating fish, go with a bluegill color. If they're eating crawfish, go with orange or red.
So yes. I was talking crap earlier about like different colors and like I don't just throw green pumpkin all the time year in to year out. Well, okay, right now jackhammer, like just straight green pumpkin, because it doesn't matter at that point whether it's bluegill or perch, whatever they're feeding on up shallow.
Fair point.
You're in between the two. If you don't want to throw two, if I'm confident I can get a jackhammer bite going right now, more often than not, I'm going 3/8 ounce and I'm going with a complete like what I just showed you, that bluegill. Something like that, like a nice bluegill pattern, both in the jackhammer and the trailer, or jackhammer will have that bluegill pattern, just a straight green pumpkin trailer for it, or the yellow perch, which I can't recall what the color is on the jackhammer, but it's a green and orange skirt, and then just a straight green pumpkin trailer on the back of that too. So really, I'm just looking for a little orange in the skirt. Dirty water, I don't change. Dirty water,
I wouldn't change. I mean, if it's like chocolate milk, then maybe I would go black and blue color, but like you don't need to adjust like they're not hitting a chatterbait because they're seeing it from really far away. They're hitting it because they feel it. So I don't know that the water clarity impacts it that much unless it's crazy muddy. Yep.
Agreed. There you go. Dan Nickerson, what trailers are you using in the chatterbait? You first this time.
The spunk shed is what I start with probably 95% of the time. I use a 4 or 5 inch spunk shad, and I just match the color to whatever the color. Yeah, exactly what you have on there. Yep, that's
Yeah, it's
exactly
sexy little
what,
ditty. By the way, this works really good on like a number of things.
a
Mid
lot of
strolling,
things.
drop
Yeah.
shot,
Yep.
Ned rig, jackhammer, doesn't matter. This thing's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep. The only other trailer that I use a good amount on a chatterbait besides the spunk shad would be Z-Man makes it. It's called like a razor shads or something like that. It's basically like a Yamamoto Zako, which I use a Zako from time to time too. So I guess there's 3, but it's like a Yamamoto Zako essentially, except it's elastic, so it lasts literally for your entire life. So
Yeah.
those ones are decent too.
For me, Beast Coast Blade Runner. I really, really like that trailer. And if I want something with a little more pizzazz, I would go with Beast Coast Flippin' Delight or Striking Rage Crawl.
I bet I
I've
caught
used...
one of the first 4-pounders on a Blade Runner. Remember? It was in like February.
Yeah.
I went to the Cape in like February.
Yep.
Right. It was like the week that it came out.
Yeah, you went out the next weekend and crushed him, bastard. Because I remember going down right after you, and I got my teeth kicked in.
That was a good trip. I just hit it like that was just like a magical, like the weather lined up and the water somehow was like 47. It was like everything was perfect.
Yep. Well, we'll be able to go down there quite a bit together this winter, so you can put your boat away and just keep hopping in mine. We'll beat the crap out of my boat.
I like that. I like that plan.
I tell you what, you know where I got to get you? We got to get you down to Candlewood.
Yeah, every time I ask you, you're like, the water's 40 feet down. There's not even any water left in it.
Every time, and they've been going really hard on the drawdowns, but I want to make a concerted effort to go there relatively soon and get there well before that water falls. And, I mean, dude, Derek's been catching donkeys. So it'd be sick. Go down there, have him jump in the boat with us. Now he's more comfortable fishing deep water too, but he's more of a shallow water guy anyway, but we're going to make it happen. And stripers soon too.
Yeah, we got to do stripers this year. I didn't go last year.
Excited.
I missed it last year. So I'm back this year.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's gonna be so good. Well,
you have to do some of the things that I do in the winter too, though. I got to take you.
I do want to do. I'm gonna do that brown trout trip this year.
Then we'll go
because I'm not taking
fishing.
any vacation time for a while. Well, I'd rather go walleye fishing.
Well, we can do both. We can go walleye. Walleye fishing is just from shore, so we can do that for free, really easy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. That's the plan. Jesus, it's already 9:15. There's one thing we didn't talk about yet that I really wanted to bring up for more on the soft plastic side of things. Fluke. Now, this is killer in the spring too, but especially right now in the fall as well. There's going to be that transition where a lot of the vegetation dies off. But if you are in a pond that has a lot of lily pads, that is going to hold fish for a shocking amount of time. You'd be surprised how long those fish will stay up there, even in cold water, like low 40s. And if I'm confident, like if I'm in there and I know that I'm getting them on a spinnerbait or a swim jig or a jackhammer, I will always have a weedless Texas rig, weightless setup that I can throw in there and work it like a jerkbait. And I'm going to work it fast. Now, where I'm like strictly power fishing it, where I'm trying to fish the damn thing fast this time of the year, I'm going to throw it on a 4 to 5/0 hook instead of like the usual 3/0 that I throw. But regardless, it's going to be one of those like heavier gauge hooks, which I think it's the super line from Gamakatsu or anything like that. Yeah. I want that much, much thicker gauge hook, which grand scheme of things is probably only a couple of grams heavier than your standard EWG hook or extra wide gap hook. But it makes all the difference in the world where you can work it fast like a jerkbait and it's still going to keep it down, especially when you go to like a 5/0 hook. It will keep it down right below the pads and you can just crack it and it just dances and darts all the way through it. Give it a quick kill. And usually it's one of those like I'll like side sweeping, just crack, crack, crack. And then I'll go up. I'll go side, 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 up. And I'm trying to get it to kind of go and kick up. And then it falls right back down with the weight of that hook too. And because you're working in such a narrow window of water at that point, more often than not, you're maximizing how much room you have to work with. That if a fish is following it, but they're not really going to like kill it while it's moving, you got to give it that kind of little upward flick. So on that pausing fall, you're working the whole foot and a half of water that you have to work with. You don't always have to do that, but I find it helps. So weightless Texas rig Fluke is like just stupid good. Not just in the spring, but also this time of the year. Honestly, it's one of my favorite bites to do. I'll throw it on a jig rod. I'll throw that on straight 15-pound fluorocarbon and a high-speed reel and just crack the ever-living crap out of that thing as it's coming through, give it a quick pause, and just keep on going. And they'll torpedo out of the water like they're hitting a frog when they hit this thing, when they hit it just right.
Yeah, they crush it.
God.
Yeah.
So much fun. Dropman. Sean loves my waters. That striper spot is money. Dude, it's just stupid fun. That is so good.
We got to take Chris this year, too.
Chris
Valaskakis.
Yeah.
Because he's been asking for a couple of years, so we got to do that.
Oh, my God. No, let's just plan on doing that. Next time we go down, like the first trip, we'll just get him out there. I've been talking about it for years, but we haven't done it yet. I'd like to be able to go down in either October or November. But
before it gets
November.
Too cold. Yeah.
Yep. And I'd like to have one of those, 100 plus stripers per person days. And most of them are going to be, like 16 to 22 inches, but you're still going to catch 100 of them.
Still fun. It's fun on a bass rod, especially.
Yeah. And I would like to be able to finally maybe potentially double up on an A-rig, because I still haven't done that out of all the trips we've been down there. And we're allowed 5 hooks down there, and I still have never doubled up. So maybe now's the time. So part of me really wants to try jerkbait too. I don't know.
Like a really deep jerkbait. I want to try those OSP crankbaits that go down like 35 feet. Like the super deep ones.
Dude, that's going to look ridiculous because that rod's already going to be bowing a mile, and I'm just going to see just like...
I know. I have 4 of those crankbaits, so I have enough that we can try.
Oh, I'm down for that. That does sound like fun. Is there anything else we didn't bring up? Because I think we covered the majority of all of our baits. We definitely covered gear for everything. We covered why we're looking in these certain areas, specific areas that we would target with all these individual techniques. Dude, I think we kind of covered everything for power fishing in the fall.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was extensive.
Yeah.
And the actual meat of the conversation, talking about power fishing, we actually spent an hour and 5 minutes on. Only the first 10 minutes was wasted on, fishing reports and everything else we got going on, the whole 9 yards.
That's good.
It was job well done, sir.
Thank you.
So we had, I posted it up for those that are already, so I will ask again, for everybody that's here watching, again, thank you very much. We had a hell of a crowd tonight. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. But if you go on the channel and you've kind of got that menu across the top where it's videos and home, videos, shorts, live, playlists, posts. On posts, I did ask a question earlier today. Oh, I take it back, yesterday. What topics would you like for us to cover on the next few live streams? Give us some ideas, please. Head on over to that. If you don't mind, if you're really interested, you want us to cover something we haven't done yet, or we haven't done in a long while, now's the time to start throwing us some suggestions. While I do enjoy the two of us trying to come up with topics, it's nice hearing it directly from you guys that are here to watch us, like really what it is you want us to cover. So let us know and we'll make it happen. Aside from that, before you go, if you haven't done so yet, please leave a like, whether you're watching here on YouTube or Facebook. Either way, doesn't matter. It helps immensely. Again, for everybody that shared this, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Dennis, would you like the honors of doing the outro?
I mean, I still don't know what the link is, but we'll be here next Wednesday, 8 p.m. at youtube.com/@ReelNorthernBass. Is that right?
Yeah. You got it.
God, first try. All right.
Sorry, that was a really inappropriately timed swig of water.
The worst time you killed all the vibe that I created with the great outro. Now it's.
I have been told I'm very awkward, so you're welcome. I'm just trying to keep you paid.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So thank you, everybody. Greatly appreciate it, as Dennis said. We'll see you guys next Wednesday, and everybody, good luck when they get out there on the water this weekend. Have a good night.
Have a good night.